I'm going to call the Boonville Board of Works to order. I want to remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, and your participation in this meeting is your consent to be recorded and rebroadcast on the city's YouTube channel. I'll now ask Tammy Wharf to do roll call, please.
Sean Russell.
Here.
Mayor Charles Wyatt.
Here.
Attorney Brennan Phillips.
Here.
City Engineer Clint Roos. We also have bond attorney Dennis Otten via Zoom, and Jared Hall with our financial consultants. So Mayor, you do have a quorum. Let the record show that Chuck Childress is absent.
All right, moving on then. Those that like to join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please do so at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Somebody needs to mute. I don't know who.
Probably all of them.
First order of business is approval of previous minutes from June the 10th, 2025. What's your pleasure, sir?
Motion to approve as presented.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Mayor's updates, I'll pass on that. There's so much going on in the city, we'd be here till late. Citizens' concerns, I see no one in the audience. Under old business, status on water line to Gimlish Road, I'll ask Jill.
That's in the city's hands, I think.
I still will ask Jill.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I gotcha. Clinton and Tammy and Sarah were working on some paperwork for that.
Yeah. You want to
I can
comment
weigh in on that. So yeah, the way the city's ordinance reads is basically the city would pay for 3 years of what the annual revenue would be on each customer connected to that line. That would be the city's responsibility. The remainder of it would be the homeowner's responsibility for payment.
Okay.
So I would recommend that we set up a meeting with the customers who requested the extension, let them know what the estimated cost of the extension is and what the city would be willing to pay. And if they do not pay the rest, the extension does not move forward. So,
Who's got the list of, do we have it here? We've got their addresses. Do we need to send a letter out? What's your recommendation?
I don't know if you need an official letter. I would just set up, I would ask Sarah to set up a meeting and invite them in, and we can sit down, Jill, myself, and go over the details of what the extension would look like.
Did you do that?
I would be Heather, right? You want me involved?
I don't know
I thought
who's
we
had
talked
it.
about, I thought we had talked about Sarah. Am I wrong, Tammy?
Well, because it's, like you always calculate taps and stuff.
Yep, I will take care of it.
Okay.
Sorry, Sue.
No, you're good, I just was trying to figure out
The logic there.
Yep.
We got it.
the reasoning.
Okay. Thank you. B is update on demo on 3rd Street. Unless Sarah, you got any information?
We're still waiting the same as last time, we're still on a stay.
Waiting on
for the
insurance.
appraisers to do Seller's Building so we can move forward. I have the fence for number A.
Okay. We'll go straight to that one then. Go ahead, Sarah.
This fence was damaged. It is on our property on 8th. It's the house.
Sorry, for the record, can you just state who
Yes,
you
my
are?
name is Sarah Bowman and I'm with the Planning and Zoning Department. I am presenting this for Jeff, who's on vacation, but our tree damaged this fence, so which means it is our responsibility to fix it. The homeowner next door is Penny. She wants just the fence removed. And I am just asking your permission, instead of us having to fix it, we just remove the fence instead.
You probably need something from her stating that.
Is that Penny
Beckman,
Beckman?
it's a rental house.
Probably just a release from her.
Yep.
She wants us to.
She will be happy to give that. She has talked to Jeff and myself about the tree, and she doesn't want to replace the fence. We're not honestly sure whose it really is. we don't want the fence either, so after looking through it, we were better off just removing the fence instead of paying a repair price.
So if she gets the letter that agrees that happens, then can we,
Just need to create a file, and have it, in the event that something would happen down the road.
so we don't have to bring it back
We need to-
next month,
We can't
though?
hear you.
Just need to create a file and put it in there.
Okay.
All right, so.
So what I would ask is for a motion to approve that the fence be removed instead of repaired by the city, as the homeowner has requested.
Pending the letter of approval, I'd make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Mayor, can I
Yes,
ask one
sir.
question of Sarah real quick?
Yes.
Over on Third Street on the demo,
Yes?
I know at the last meeting I just kinda brought up, like a timeline and, it's in the insurance company's hands and stuff. The building's safe.
Everything at the moment is deemed as safe as possible. There shouldn't, barring any storm damage of any sort. But we cannot continue with our scope for our building because the foundation is connected to Mr. Scheller's building. We cannot further damage Mr. Scheller's building by doing our work because they did not came to a settlement and his building is it is destroyed. So there's no saving. Last we had heard is that Jordan's insurance was waiting on appraisals.
Okay. And what I was gonna ask was going down the direction of, if the building's safe, could that road not be opened back up and just that sidewalk closed? Until we because it's been closed for
It
2 months.
has been, but it's a liability thing if we open it back up now, because it's not our job site at this moment. It would be Eigner Constructions. And both Eigner's team and our structural engineers, as well as the insurance, all deemed for it to stay exactly as it is until we have further information from the insurance and the buildings. So unfortunately, our hands as the city is tied until we hear back.
Gotcha. Thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, pay app number 1, talking about that building. That pay app is $173,877 of Jerry Eigner Construction for the demo on Third Street. Clint, you wanna wade into that one, please?
Yeah, Sarah and I can. We've reviewed that, and I think that pay application is complete, and we would recommend approval of that to the board.
It roughly leaves about another $175,000.
That sounds correct.
It's like 249 or something like that total, I think.
Yeah, I
Yep.
believe so.
Yep.
What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Third, on the new business is Chief Brandon Wells.
I just want to recommend, or request, Officer Michael Embry be taken off his year probationary status.
Under recommendation of the chief, I'll make a motion to approve.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we've got Zach Southard, quotes on access cameras for Boonville PD. Take it over, buddy.
Zach Southard, Square Deal Mine Road. So this camera is a dual head sensor camera that catches around both corners. It'll be on the Boonville Police Station to catch the evidence locker, trailer, and the rest of the parking lot to the doors. It's been needing one for a while because they have a blind spot of when vehicles come in and out. And when they're not there, they'll be able to see it at night. I would recommend addition or approval on any of the three. It's still, you're looking at 2 weeks out to get them, but the wires and stuff are in place to be installed, and we will install it within the next couple weeks.
Do you have a preference on which one?
No.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve the bid from 123 Security for $1,399.
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. The next is approval of a recommendation to the city council on proposed water and sewer rate increases. And I'll let Tammy Boroff take over there and introduce our guest.
Thanks, Mayor. We do have Dennis Otten, who's with Bose McKinney and Evans LLC, and Jared Hall, who's with O.W. Cron and Associates. Dennis, which one of you guys want to talk first?
Oh. Hey Tammy, hi Mayor and everyone else. Why don't I talk first and then Jared, you want to follow? Does that work?
That's perfect.
Okay, and I think most of what you all want to hear is going to come from Jared on the numbers, but basically what we have in front of you are a couple of ordinances that are proposed for consideration by the council at its meeting in early July to introduce rate increases for both the sewage works and the water works. And Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the waterworks side, this is really just to keep up with increasing costs and expenses since the last increase, and set the water utility up for the upcoming years to avoid the future increase. And on the sewer side, it's the same thing, but it is also in expectation of providing some funding for design costs that are going to be incurred in respect of a treatment plant project that the city has planned that it'll need to undertake in the future.
That's good.
But procedurally, the council would introduce these ordinances. We would advertise a public hearing, hold the public hearing at the following council meeting, and ask the council to approve the increase in rates and charges. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. Jared, I'll kind of turn it over to you to maybe talk more about the numbers and then anything you think I missed.
Perfect. Hey, good afternoon, Mayor, Board of Works, Tammy. I believe you all should have in your packet the rate studies that we prepared. I'll go over the water one first because I think that was the first one in the packet there. So, assuming everybody has it handy, if you go ahead and flip to page 2, I'll try and keep this as efficient as possible. However, stop me if you have any questions or want me to clarify anything. But we start kind of with the historical picture of the water utility. And so page 2, this reflects kind of the balance sheet approach. So at the top, we got the utility plant and service. So that's what's been invested into your system kind of thus far. We then below that present the cash and investment. So you'll see your key fund. There's your operating fund. And it's, we did 2 years, so 2024 and 2023. So you'll see your operating fund there. You had a $655,000 cash balance, your operating fund at the end of 24. You have your bond and interest fund, which is the fund that you use to satisfy the debt. So monthly funds go in, money goes into that fund and then is used to make the debt service payment on your 2 outstanding bonds. You have a debt service reserve fund, which is strictly, it's restricted just to make payment on the bonds in the event you don't have the funds available in your operating fund or your bond and interest fund. We have the construction fund in there. That was where your bond proceeds went, used to pay the project. That's been fully drawn down. You guys created a program, a tank painting reserve fund. So annually you set aside monies to keep the maintenance on those tanks when they're needed. And I understand you guys are kind of right in the middle of that, wrapping up that program on your 3 tanks. I think you got quotes and you're probably going to undertake that. Is that this year, Clint?
Yeah, we're on our last tank this year, which is what we call the Millis tank. We'll be starting construction on that in the next month, probably.
And that's in the tune of what, $300,000 or so?
Yeah, I think it was about 250,000 if I am recollecting correctly. So it's under 300,000, but that's a good placeholder for this discussion.
Yeah. So that 351,000 that's sitting in the bank at the end of 24 is going to be spent down, for its purpose to make you do that tank painting. And then the last fund, you got a meter deposit fund. that's just the monies that come in when new accounts are set up, set aside, to be returned, once a customer disconnects and satisfies their last bill. So, total ending cash at the end of 2024 was $1,430,000. And then you have two bonds outstanding. So you have a 2019 refunding bond that was outstanding in the amount of $1,095,000, and then a 2022 bond that was outstanding in the amount of $3,512,000. Any questions? Okay. If we go ahead and flip on to page 3, same 2 years are presented. This is the income statement. So we can see at the top we got our operating receipts. And kind of one of the things, just like high level, when we're reviewing this, we look for consistencies, right? You haven't had a lot of change in growth, customer base. So the good thing is your revenues are really consistent year to year, especially on the metered sales, fire protection, some of those kind of normal operating. You have some variation in other operating tap fees, things like that. But really, you're pretty consistent on the way your receipts have been coming in for the year. The section below that is your operating disbursements, and so we had a little bit of fluctuation, and actually Tammy and I talked this morning. Everything looks pretty consistent. We had a drop in that contractual services line, and that's primarily your Veolia contract with them, and the number reflected in there, that $429,000 that was paid in 2024, really reflects about 6 months of payments. The other 6 were taken out of the edit fund to kind of help make sure we didn't run out of money in the water fund. Is that a correct representation, Tammy?
Yes, we had some added expense that we weren't ready for, and
Okay. So then we had a total operating, it was down in 24. What you'll see here in a couple of schedules is we adjust that to kind of create a projected operating expense. But below that, you get to your non-operating receipts, things like your interest income, your net meter deposits. This is where your debt service, so you can see your bond principal and interest payments come out. So just a little bit over $500,000 a year. Looks like over the last 2 years, you've made almost $1.2 million of capital outlay investments into your system. And then payment in lieu of taxes. So that's a payment from the utility to the city's general fund. And the idea behind it is that since you have assets that, if they're owned by a private entity, would be taxable subject to property taxes, that's potential monies that the city would be able to receive. So it's kind of a mechanism to get funds to the already restricted city side of government to help kind of keep those services in operation. So you can see it ties down there at the end. We end the year with that same $1,430,000 as presented on page 2. Any questions there? Okay. The next couple of pages, so page 4, this is the amortization schedule of your 2019 refunding bonds. So you can see it's a little more than $1 million outstanding. The final payment on that is January 1, 2028, and it's at a 2.6% interest rate. So still very competitive interest rate. Not much to do as far as the refunding, anything to save, anything on that. Page 5 and 6 present your 2022 bonds. So a little over $3.5 million outstanding, and that matures January 1, 2062. I'm guessing that's an RD bond. And 1.25%, that's a 40-year bond. It's about as good as you're going to get. So that'll be annual payment of just a little under $120,000 a year. Page 7 is where we combine both of those to present what's the total debt service with both of the bonds. So the combined debt service schedule. It's actually page 7 and 8. Page 9 is this is a table, 3 tables that present kind of the billing information. So you know, it's cut by month and by customer class. And so you can see the top table shows your dollars billed. The middle table is the gallons sold. And then the bottom table there is the billing transaction. So it's kind of I like it because it kind of shows, you know, where the money's coming from, who's buying the water. You know, by month you can see the seasonal trends, things like that. But always just find it interesting to look at that data, include it in our report. So if we get to page 10, this is where we kind of go from looking at historical data to kind of a forward-looking, the projection part of the rate study. So page 10 is where we, it's called the pro forma operating disbursements. And so what we do is we take what's identified as the test year, which is the 2024, and then we talked with you know, the mayor and Tammy and other folks at the city to, you know, identify the best that we can, like what's going to happen in the next, you know, 3 to 4 years. I mean, fortunately, we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly, but, you know, we provide for inflation increases, things like that. We made that adjustment for that contractual services to reflect that it's about $50,000 a month on that Veolia. So you come up with this projected operating disbursements of a little over $1.5 million. We then, if you go ahead and go on over to page 11, so this is where we kind of bring everything together. So what we've done, we've prepared two options. You'll see option one, I'll go through option one and then just touch on the changes for option two. But option one, you'll see we bring in that $1.5 million pro forma operating disbursements as presented on the previous page. We then calculate a payment in lieu of taxes. So we did our own calculation based on the plant value and the city's 2025 tax rate. So it's a little more than I think historically we've done, but it ties back to the numbers. So $271,000 there. You have annual debt service, $500,000. We have a tank maintenance, $187,700 a year allowance, and that was set back when you guys were still in the IURC, right? And so you put together the program, a tank maintenance program, and that was what they kind of required, I guess, for that annual allowance. We then also, we put in what's called a PAYGO project allowance. And so this, and Clint could, I'm sure, speak to the laundry list of projects, but, you know, there's a lot of things that are unknown that happen, things like water main breaks, right, that happen in any given year. So I think the idea here is that, you know, one year we might only have $100,000 worth of problem. The next year might be 500,000, but this provides for you guys to address those projects that we're not going to pay for through like a bond issuance, right? They're smaller in scale, so it provides that allowance there. And then the next one, the allowance for working capital and depreciation. So that's calculated based on your plant value. It's kind of industry, you know, it assumes a 40-year depreciation on everything from your plant to your collection system. But it kind of works in conjunction with that PAYGO allowance above, in that, you know, it's not necessarily earmarked for operations, but it's going to provide coverage for items that maybe we don't have, that aren't known at this point. But I'm sure there are known projects that are on the list that need to get done that will also utilize those funds. So we add all those numbers up and it gives us $2,972,475. So that's the revenue requirements. That's what revenue we need to generate in order to provide for all of these items. We then go down and we basically gather all the test year receipts. And so you'll see that $2,344,000 of sales, you have fire protection, hydrant, and penalties. So really you're right now, all things the same, you're bringing in $2,707,000. That leaves a shortfall between the revenues required and the current revenues generated of $265,000, or 9.9%, a 9.9% shortfall. So that would be our recommendation, is you would, across the board increase of 9.9%. Option two, the only change we did between option one and option two was that tank maintenance. I think we talked about, look, if you didn't want to fund that tank maintenance program at that same level, you could cut it back. I think you've done all 3 tanks in the last 4 years, and it has a pretty decent life on them, 15 to 20 years. So, you could build up funds kind of at a slow rate, but we wanted to show you those options. And then the last page, page 12, just shows what the rates would look like under the 2 options. Any questions or comments?
So what is the 9.9% projected? Do I see that on here?
So on a 2,500 gallon customer, Mayor,
Yeah,
right below, is that what you're
that's
asking?
Yeah, yeah.
So currently a 2,500 gallon customer pays $31.58. Their bill would increase to $34.72, which is $3.14 more per month. So it's right underneath that 9.9%.
I got it. Thank you.
11. Yep.
And Clint, where we've hit our tanks, when's our next tank gonna be due?
So with the paint code system that we've spec'd out, probably in about 20 years. We did our north tank, our Folsonville tank, that was 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago, and then Brackenridge we did a year and a half ago, and then Mills ago this year. So 20 years are those
So
paint
then-
coating systems.
But in the next 20 years, we're gonna have to do all 3 of them again.
Yeah, yeah.
The other thing is.
In
I
about
wanted to-
15 years, we would do
First one.
Folsonville again, and then simultaneous. So I didn't grab the numbers, but overall, we probably were just under $1 million for all 3 tanks. So, do the math. We've got on option 2, we lowered it to 60,000, just assuming a little bit of flood, but we would need at least 50,000 a year in that account to grow it, to be able to redo all those on time, so.
The other thing that we had talked about, water tanks, we'd also looked at our clear well
Yes, sir.
about, and we could use some of this dollars to
Correct.
do the clear well, which will double what
Mhm.
we have
Yep.
as capacity in the city. Instead of, 1.5 million, it'd be 3 million gallons
Correct.
of water that we could have. And that was what I was kind of looking at, that maybe we would use some of this money to further ensure that we have supply.
Yeah, I fully agree. So, I think one of the reasons we're recommending option 1 is that tank maintenance account. We're gonna have excess funds in there based upon the 3 repaints that we just did. So we could always use that additional money in there for additional pay-go projects, or as the mayor said, rehabbing that clear well or any other project that would come up. It's another funding source for you to do other projects with.
So Clint, it might be better for one of them, I'm not sure. 9.9%, what is the average? We're not the only city looking at this stuff. Is that fairly common, being almost 10%, or?
I wouldn't say the percent, honestly, all over the board. I've got a community that just did 120%.
Yeah.
I've got some that do 3 or 4. I would say 9% is very, and yeah, Dennis is probably smiling because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's all over the place. But I would say your rate, so your $31, $34 is very competitive. That's probably more of an easier way to,
Okay.
or way to look at it. And this is, by what I see a lot is when communities don't look at the rates like you all are now, we get into this dire situation, and then you're having 120% increase conversation, and so I would say this is very appealing is probably not the right word, but appetizing. It's not unordinary.
I would rather do maintenance than be looking at 100%.
Yeah, I'll
increase.
just kind of pile onto that, Jared. I'm actually in my car because I'm heading up to northern Indiana tonight for a rate introduction where, you know, the proposed sewer rates are in the $80 to $90 range. Small community. But I would just echo what you said. It's all over the place. But these rates, I look at them compared to what I see elsewhere, and there's nothing remarkable about them in terms of size. In fact, I think they're probably short of what we're seeing in most communities. And I would just let you all know that kind of my observation has been in the past year, we're seeing a lot of communities going through rate increases right now. And I think it's a function in many respects of inflation, and then also just sort of unfunded mandates that EPA is putting on, that projects that just have to be done.
So I would piggyback, again, I echo what Dennis and Jared mentioned, but one thing that you'll see on for example, I'm looking at sheet 11 in Jared's report, that 4,000 gallons, we list the 4,000 gallons on here because that's kind of what we look at from a state standpoint. The state likes to look at 4,000 gallons. So I will say, and I'll defer to Jared and Dennis, they probably see more of these than I do. But when you look at a combined water and sewer rate, I think we're probably kind of in the average of what we see across the state from a water and sewer combined standpoint. So I don't know if I answered your question, Sean, but yeah, we from a state standpoint, we look at the 4,000 gallons. In Boonville, the average is 2,500. So, but we put both of those on here so you can kind of see where you are with respect to typical average of the state.
Any other questions?
Mayor, we just need a recommendation for the council on this one.
Yeah, I think that's what we would be at. I've lost my
Do
schedule.
they need to recommend which option, or does that, the council that decides that?
Dennis, I'll let you have that.
Yeah, I will tell you, we have it baked into the ordinance. And
Okay.
It's
Jared,
option
maybe you-
one. Option one is what is in the ordinance currently.
yeah, so we have option 1 in the ordinances.
Okay.
And so I think that's, you know, ideally the recommendation that we're looking for from the board here.
I'll make a motion, I guess just to kind of, for the sake of my motion, I'm making a motion to recommend this to the, you know, to approve the listed salary ordinance to the council, correct? As it's written? Because they said option 1's in there.
It's not salary.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the water ordinance.
No, yeah, water rate increase.
Okay, I'll make a motion to recommend the water rate ordinance to city council. Sorry.
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Next on the agenda, approve recommendation to the city council on the sewer bond ordinance. Which one's got that?
Yeah.
Sewer rate and ordinance.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I
Ready?
think we want to get a recommendation on the sewer rate ordinance.
Okay, here's his. Who's gonna spell that one out? The water,
Oh,
we
yeah,
spelled the water out, now
So-
we're ready for the sewer, right?
Here's one.
Yeah, so you should have the same report, and they're virtually identical kind of in form, so I'll try and be, you know, kind of as brief, but if you start on page 2 again, same thing, we've got utility plant, you've got your cash, and then you've got your debt, so you know, you ended 2024, with about $1.4 million, and primarily that's all in your operating fund. You currently have we have the lease rental bonds of 21 that they're outstanding in the amount of $17.3 million. Currently, the sewer has pledged $300,800 annually to pay the debt service on those 2021 lease rental bonds. If you go on to page 3, same thing. We've got, you know, your cash flow. So to me, you know, the revenue, your operating receipts, you know, are consistent. We're not seeing any volatility or anything that looks abnormal there. Same thing, so we go to our operating disbursements. We had, it looks like, we had a reduction of about $400,000 from 23 to 24. Primarily, looks like you all made some investment. You had some engineering, and then the Veolia, looks like that dropped a little bit from 23 to 24. And then, let's see. Yeah, everything else was pretty consistent. Things like office supplies and such, changed. But then you have your interest income, your debt, capital outlays all down below there, so about $1 million. So you had a slight increase of $1.4 million. An increase of $280,000. So your total ending cash was $1.4 million. If we go to page 4, so this is the amortization schedule for the 2021 lease rental bonds. And you'll see those bonds, they have a total debt service of about $1 million. However, it was designed when those were issued that the sewer would pledge about a third of it, so that $300,000 a year through the maturity of January 2046. So we've got another about 21 years. Page 5, we've got our billing information there, so broken down by dollars, gallons sold, and then billing transactions. And then we get to page 6 where we made our adjustments to our test year. So this is where we developed the pro forma operating disbursement. So taking the 2024 data, talking with the folks at the city, we've developed a pro forma operating expense budget of $2,677,000. And so then if we go to page 7, this is where we, like I said, bring it all together. This is going to be a little bit different than water in that there is a project on the horizon. And Clint, if you guys want to talk about it today, we'll definitely do that. But basically what we've done is, we've got option 1 here. I'll start by saying I don't think option 2 is really up for consideration today. It's more for illustrative purposes. But option 1, we bring in our operating disbursements. You have that calculated payment in lieu of taxes. You've got the debt service allowance. Then you'll see what's called a proposed 2025 ban or bond anticipation note. And so there is a project out there that we're looking at in the next couple of years. In order to get there, there has to be a lot of work, primarily design engineering. And so in order to pay your engineers to do that work, you would need funds. And so one of the mechanisms that's utilized in this situation is what's called a bond anticipation note. It's kind of like a line of credit, a construction loan. And basically what you do is you take the loan out and you pay interest only. And then once we go to finance the entire project, part of paying for the project would be to pay off that bond anticipation note. So I put in there, I've assumed a $1.5 million bond anticipation note. And so the interest only on that is about $75,000 a year. So that would be, a 3, 4, 5 year note. So I put an allowance for that. And then the PAYGO project allowance, same thing, $200,000. And then the allowance for working capital depreciation based on your plant value and a 40-year depreciation is $562,000. That's a total revenue requirement of $4,312,000. Currently, we're bringing in about 3.6, almost 3.7 million, leaving us with a shortfall of 653,442, or 18%. And the same thing, you can see that an 18% increase is, it's like $7.98. So it'd go from $42.80 to $50.78. Option 2 and this is illustrative, and I don't know how much you want to get into the project, but I think right now the preliminary rough estimates is it's about $35 million. So what we did here is just wanted to kind of, get it out there that, assuming no, grant funds or special subsidization, if you just had to go out and borrow $35 million today for 20 years at 2.5%, you'd be looking at a possible increase, upwards of 80%, up to $77. By no means are we there yet. I think from a lot of perspectives, and Clint can speak to this, this is their very rough, probably back of the napkin estimate. Once you get through design, I found that they kind of firm up numbers and, but we wanted to get it out there to kind of just start, planting that seed so that everybody kind of see what kind of project we're looking at here.
Yeah, and I can chime in a little bit. So what our game plan, and you've heard Jill talk about this for years, the plant has maintenance issues with the existing plant. We are looking at doubling the capacity of your wastewater plant. So in order to do that, we are targeting going after SRF funding. In order to do that, we have to have a preliminary engineering report submitted to SRF by April 1 of next year to get on their project priority list, or you'll hear us refer to that as their PPL. So with option 1, what's included in that is preparation of the PER to hit that April 1, 2026 deadline for submittal to them to get on the PPL. And at the same time, to expedite your wastewater needs, we would be doing design and preparation of that PER simultaneously. And that's just trying to keep the plant operational because, and Jill can attest to the issues that she experiences, what we've had in recent years with prime foods and flows and impact. So option 1 is for design and preparation of that PER. What would happen if we submit that PER, we get on the PPL list next year, typically that would be announced in the summer. So we would know what kind of funding we would be getting from SRF summer. The goal would be that design plans would be ready to go and we could go out to bid probably fall or early 2020. As Jared indicated in option 2, we've thrown out a $35 million estimate for construction of the plant and non-construction costs. So about $35 million is where we, at this point in time, think we would be with the plant expansion and all other non-construction costs. So the plan of going in for SRF, my hope, our design team's hope would be we would qualify for grant funds through SRF as well. I think your project's going to score well on the PPL, just due to the nature of it being a plant. I think we also are going to look at potentially some regional growth initiatives that the plant could serve, which will help, I think, you score better on the PPL. So those are all things that I can't project what's going to happen in the future, but we're going to do our best to get you SRF funding. So that is the difference between option 1 and option 2. So option 1 is really just design, PER preparation. Option 2 does not include any grant money in there. So, that is our hope that we can help the city get grant money through SRF. Any questions on that?
So the proposed option 1 is is increasing our fees $7.92. Is that right?
98.
98, okay. $7.98, which would bump it from 42.80 to 50.78 is what I've got. I'm just doing a little Wyatt figuring. So that would bring us up from to $85.50 a month for our 2,500. That's what I've looked at here. I mean, this is obviously not the thing that makes us the happiest is going out here and raising rates, but it's something we've got to be responsible to be able to do to keep things going. Tammy here has handed me her financial, it would go from, our bill total would be $87.93. $87.93 would now be our average for 2,500 gallons.
And that's for water?
Water and sewer.
wastewater.
And sewer. And everything, that's taxes and everything else included in that.
I mean, you guys ought to figure in that I ain't got 6 kids living in my house no more. My bill's gonna go way down.
Yeah. But this is not something that we look lightly on. I know the Board of Works, the council, we've talked on it. I think 3 years ago, or is it 4 years ago, we had our last increase. But we've always known that this day would be coming, that we'd be looking at it. So anyway,
Did you say 4 years ago was the last increase?
I think it was 3.
three or four.
Mayor, one thing, if I may interject for a second,
Go ahead.
that we failed to talk about. I think Jared indicated it. We did allocate $200,000 a year for the pay-go allowance.
Yeah.
I did want to touch base on that real quick. So the logic behind that pay-go allowance, as everyone on the board knows, we've been getting a lot of people coming before the board on combined laterals and lateral issues that homeowners have dealt with. And the city has been stepping in and assisting with some of those projects. So that $200,000 that we've included as pay-go is intended to address some of the sewer lateral issues that have been brought before the board, and then also handling some of the combined sewer lateral issues that we have as well. So I did want to bring that attention to you guys as well,
So
because
the-
that is a common thread that we seem to be hearing more and more of from the Board of Works side.
So the 18.6 is kind of factoring into some of the issues we've talked about with,
Yes,
just the collapsed laterals and.
correct. We would have an extra $200,000 a year to tackle those problems.
And our sewer plant is how old?
Sewer plant was constructed in 2001, so it's,
Yep.
yeah, and what we run into on a lot of plant work, 15 years, you start seeing a lot of maintenance start upticking, and I think we're at that point. We're past that point, but Jill can attest to the additional maintenance that she's been seeing here in recent years. The beauty of the plant expansion, the way it was originally laid out and anticipated, basically we're gonna mirror the existing plant, so when Jill has issues down the road, the plant won't have to be taken out of service. We'll be able to turn off one side, do rehab, the other side keeps going. So I think it's gonna be it's gonna allow a lot of flexibility for Jill and Violi and those who are operating our plant down the road.
Well, one thing I wanted to point out is that Boonville was on the longest sewer ban in the history of the state of Indiana. We cannot afford to do that. We cannot afford to go backward. The city is increased in value. It's brought people in. We're able to provide for subdivisions. We're able to provide for growth. And the state of Indiana, when you get to such capacity at your sewer plant, then they send a notice out saying, hey, you need to do this, and we're trying to be proactive on this, so we're ahead of the game. So that's the other thing that I wanted to make sure the Board of Works was aware of.
So it checked all my boxes and the rest of pet peeves of mine.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to recommend wastewater ordinance 2025-8 to city council.
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it.
Yeah, I don't know if this is, Dennis, is that all we have to do, or do we have to do something else?
Sewer bond ordinance, or-
That's it, Tammy, on the rates. I didn't look at the agenda, but we will have, just so the Board of Works knows, and we don't need a recommendation from them, but just so that they're aware, we plan to have a bond ordinance on the agenda for introduction at the same council meeting for the sewer project. Kind of the planning and design costs that Jared and Clint mentioned. So that's just an FYI. And Tammy, we've not provided that to you yet. We're still putting that together, and we'll probably have that out here by the end of the week.
So do they need to recommend the bond ordinance, or wait till the next meeting and do that?
Well, I don't think it would hurt for them to recommend it.
Okay,
If we've got that on the agenda,
yeah, we do.
it's just the thing that we'll implement, kind of allowing Clint to do the planning and design for the sewer project.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next on the agenda, thank you gentlemen for your time and your work. We'll be in touch later. Next on the agenda, I have Sarah.
Thank you all.
Sarah Bowman wants to bring something to the Board of Works. Go ahead, Sarah.
That's number G,
Number G?
yeah,
Yeah,
building inspector.
yeah.
We have kind of come to a critical point with the city. We need to have an active building inspector that works with us. Unfortunately, I cannot get any response or any action at all from the new county building inspector. I have called several times. I've called the department. I have never gotten a return phone call. I have not only new construction, I have old remodeled construction, and that's what we really need the help on. I reached out to United Consulting as well as another firm asking if they offered any. I talked to Gordon out of 3i Design as well, our structure engineer. He suggested I go out into the public, so I contacted Cara Muth from Victoria Woods, and she gave me the name of who she uses. You have his resume in front of you. And the second page I gave you was a printout of what he would propose to charge for each inspection. Doesn't matter what the inspection is. But this way, when I get a permit, I can do the start and the finish all the way through, as well as the city then gets to collect the revenue off of that building permit. Because right now, we're just sending a very large amount over to the county and not getting any service from them. So this way, it's staying in the city.
Is there any way, I'm doing what if here.
Yep.
If we would do this and then the county come back and they say, no, that's under our jurisdiction, or is?
We have an ordinance that would need to be repealed. It is an agreement that you had with the county at one time. I have sent the information to Steve Unger to ask, because we do need our own set of building codes, our own ordinance, and all we have to do to get this is redo our ordinance and repeal the one that we had signed with the county however many years ago. So what I'm asking is if the Board of Works would approve this as a motion to go to the council for them to do the ordinance that allows this to be enacted. So basically, I need you guys to approve kind of what his cost would.
It's just an ordinance, I don't think there's any,
It's no part of an agreement with the county?
No, it's just where we adopted all of their stuff.
Okay.
So we would just need to repeal that ordinance.
Okay, yeah.
It's not an interlocal, there was nothing signed, so.
Yeah, that's the only thing
Yep.
it's the first I'm hearing of it.
But,
yeah.
we need to, do our own set of building codes and that, because in that ordinance, it does say we will follow and adopt the counties.
Do you have help on that, putting that together, or are you able to do that?
I sent it to Steve just to ask if they could get that together, so we could take a look at it. I think the gentleman you're looking at, his resume for, will be our largest benefactor in getting that set up. But,
so,
right?
we're not hiring an employee with
Correct.
benefits, all we're doing
Service.
is,
It is a service.
Okay.
It would be we would basically have this gentleman on retainer as our inspector. When I would need inspections, we would call him, we'd get to make the appointment, we'd get to be involved with him, and he would report back. He does not want to be paid on inspection per inspection. That is gonna be, we talked about either a monthly invoice or every 6 months. That will be discussed after I get, some approvals here. But I've got properties, guys, that I can't, nobody here is qualified to look at. John Dorn is semi-qualified and can help in the inspection, but, otherwise, we've got buildings that are not, they're not compliant.
Can we take a short recess? I mean, there's no one here, so we ain't gotta get up. Is that possible?
We're on YouTube, I don't know if.
Oh,
Sure you can recess. All right, I've been asked for recess, and we are taking recess.
all right, let me know when I'm clear.
Just mute the live.
Yes, sir. Hey, what's your buttons on?
All right, we are back from recess, Boonville Board of Works. Sean, you have a motion?
Yeah, Brennan, help me out if I get this wrong.
Brennan, you got this.
I think your motion you're going to make is that you're requesting the council or recommending the council to repeal the ordinance relating to the building, or the agreement with the county that we would use the same building inspector to allow the council to move forward with establishing the city's own building ordinances and regulations moving forward. And as a secondary recommendation, you're asking Sarah, or recommending, or asking Sarah to post the job for applications.
That's my motion.
Well, I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
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 Tammy,
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it.
your ordinance of reference that needs to be repealed is 1994-2, which was also coincidentally the same time they did the zoning ordinance and did everything in the city, so it was all done at the same time back in 94.
Thank you very much for bringing that to us, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Michael Dennis.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Mike Dennis, IT Manager, City of Boonville. I'll pass these out. This is a quote from General Parking Services. I apologize for not having it on the agenda. I literally just got it an hour and a half ago. This has been put to me as a high priority from Chief Wells. This is for a door control interface to interface with the rear elevator access door at the police department with a control pad in the secretary's office, so that should somebody come to that door and need in to use that elevator for ADA purposes or what have you, she can see that. There will be two-way communications. She can communicate with them and then hit a buzzer to allow them access to that room without having the door open and unsecured all hours of the day. This quote is from a sole source vendor, so it is compliant and compatible with our existing system, and it is a quote for $3,200.
I've just got one question. I know that this is the elevator. What about the man door? Oh, that's Zach Southern.
So,
Yeah.
so the camera that we just passed earlier, handles that. They're able to see outside the door from the inside, and then the camera will pick up what they're asking per
Thank
Brandon
you.
today.
I just wanted to make sure we covered both bases.
Me and Mike followed it up today.
You guys are so good. Quote to provide a video intercom, $3,200. What's your pleasure?
Is this coming out of lit money or
Public safety.
public safety? Okay. Make a motion to approve.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Ayes have it. Thank you.
Sign that.
Let me sign this.
Yes, please.
There you go. Thank you, Michael, for that. Appreciate that. I'm sure Chief would be very happy about that. Anything else before we go to taps and adjustments that hasn't been brought before the board? Moving on to taps and adjustments. First one I've got here is there are two adjustments. One is for Ron Evans at 208 East Golf. Crawl space, basement leak, $337.26. What's your pleasure?
Make a motion to approve.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. The next, on the agenda here, I'll pass that along to you, Jill, for you to have Mr. Sean sign. The next is Alora Blair at 412 North 7th Street. Hidden leak behind the shower wall and below the bathroom sink. Two different leaks, two different times, December 24th and August 24th. $891.44. I don't know if we can, I'm asking legal counsel's opinion on this one.
I've never seen one that's so far in between.
Far apart.
Can Tammy?
Tammy, is she back here? Service? I need her, please. Somebody. Yeah, we'll get Tammy Service up here, maybe
Yeah,
she
a
can.
couple questions. It says 2 separate leaks.
Yeah. 24 day of September, of December.
So what I should have probably done was I probably should have put one for August and one for December,
Okay,
but I just put them together.
sure.
So it's not consecutive, but they can have 2 adjustments in a year, and these are the adjustments.
So did they make the repair in August and then it happened again in
Yep.
December?
It's totally different things too, is what I'm being told. So one's behind the shower, one's behind the sink.
Yeah.
So 2 separate.
Why did it take them so long to fill out the?
The guy actually, so Laura has actually passed away. That's the mom.
Okay.
Nathan, he lives in Florida. It took him this long to come up here and do the repairs. So it is a little special, but
So they just had the water shut off?
Yep.
Since December?
yep. Yeah.
I mean, I think it meets a situation, yeah.
So you think it meets it? Okay. Make a motion to approve?
I'll second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. Clerical adjustments is next up.
I make a motion to approve all properly documented clerical adjustments.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. All right, swimming pool adjustments, here we go.
Time of the year.
409 West Sycamore Street, Boonville, May 24th. Chandra Elliott, $190.03. Petitioner's name.
Make a motion to approve?
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. Next, 3311 West State Route 62, Van Hoos, Bats, $208.56.
Make a motion to approve?
And again, these are swimming pool fill affidavit, and we're approving them. They've met all the receipts and everything that before them, so. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. 2711 West State Road 62, 24-footer. Kristen Walters, $214. Well, they have Boonville Water, or Chandler Water and Boonville Sewer. So they would still qualify, yeah. That note was on there, that threw me off there for a second.
Make a motion to approve?
Got a motion and second, all in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. 518 West Walnut Street, Nikki Scott, $279.06 for their pool.
I'm just kind of curious. Make a motion to approve?
We got a motion and second, all in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, ayes have it. The next one is 917 South Second Street, 16 radius, Michelle Beasing for $102.72.
Make a motion to approve?
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. 1303 Washington Avenue. I can't read that. Is that
Donald Mays.
Mays, okay, $130.11. And it's an 18-foot radius pool.
I'm still trying to figure out how Tammy got Donald Mays out of that.
If you look under printed name, it's.
Oh, it's
Okay.
better, okay, it is
Got it.
better.
Make a motion to approve.
I can second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign, ayes have it. Next, 410 South 7th Street, Joshua DeTalent, $130.11 for his 18-foot pool.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. We're getting close. 705 East Poplar, a 27-foot diameter pool for Heather Weddle, $292.75.
Make a motion to approve.
I got a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion and second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it.
Mayor, before we go on too far, because I know
Yes.
that I'm assuming these probably aren't done for the year, and then there's always next year too. I'm just kind of curious how we come up with some of these, because like, for example, 7,600 gallons to be adjusted, $190.03. 17,100 gallons to be adjusted, $208.56. 12,500 gallons to be adjusted, $214. I seen the wizard thing. I was just kind of looking at the different things.
AMI Services,
Okay.
showing,
Basically,
Sean Russell.
This little pool wizard, you punch in exactly what it asked you, it's a round swimming pool. Punch in exactly what it tells you. It tells me how much is supposed to come off. Sometimes they only fill up the pool so far.
Yeah, so far.
So it isn't
Okay.
6,000. We could
Gotcha.
give them 7,600. It just so happens.
But that's not always what the adjustment is. Okay, that makes perfect sense. And I was looking at those thinking,
Well, I was
I'm
hoping
happy they had
that was what I was thinking, but. The next
Thank you,
on the
Tammy.
agenda is a payment plan. It's $294.51 to Andrew Altmar, and he's wanting to pay 9 installments of $32.72. And, we've got everything taken care of, and motion second in order to approve this, I guess.
yep, I make a motion to approve.
I second that motion. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. We got claims.
Yep, there should be right down there.
Make a motion to approve all properly documented claims.
I'll make that second. All in favor of that motion, second, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, ayes have it. Let me finish the paperwork here. Numbers 3. Four. And let's go on sewer claims. Thank you. Is there anything else that needs to be brought before the Board of Works today? Just a brief update, Mark Phillips and myself, we met with CenterPoint Energy last night. We were still going through our, an agreement we're trying to come to with CenterPoint. Our contract, 25-year contracts our lease agreement's coming to an end, so we've been working on that. We'll bring further information to you probably at the next Board of Works meeting, or we might even have a special Board of Works, possibly with City Council. So with that, that's all I have for the Board of Works. I'm looking for that time-honored motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion to adjourn. All in favor of that motion to adjourn, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Thank you for all your work. Appreciate you being here to move the city of Boonville forward. Bye, Sheriff.